Hello everyone. Hi. How are you guys doing? As you must have seen on the thumbnail, in this video, I'm discussing a rather important topic and a topic on which there was certain confusion till this time that whether the new employer declaration and authorization form is required for all of the AIP streams. So I would be handling that question here. And there is something which I found to be surprising, which even I was not aware of till now. So I just thought of sharing with every one of you. So again, as always, I will go through the official website to make you understand what is the real official scenario. Okay, so if I look into the, say for example, I'm starting with Alberta opportunity stream. In this, if I go to the resource section and if I open the checklist, so here there are two things. First is checklist, and then I see that the employer declaration and authorization form is one of the resources for AOS. If I open the checklist, this is required. So for Alberta opportunity stream, the employer declaration and authorization form is required. That is one clarification that we would need. So if you are already working in Alberta, you have a job offer in Alberta and everything, you would still need this employer declaration and authorization form, which should be signed by your employer. Next, if I go to the express entry, Alberta express entry, then here also you would see the same thing, that employer declaration and authorization is one of the forms that needs to be used for Alberta express entry, and this is confirmed by the checklist. So if you see, this is a checklist and the employer declaration and authorization form is required. Okay, next let's go to the next popular stream, which is the rural renewal stream, and here also employer declaration and authorization is required, which is confirmed by the checklist. So here also in the checklist, you would see that employer declaration and authorization form is required. You would still need the job offer, but this is an additional document that will be required. Okay, and last but not the least, tourism and hospitality stream. Here also the employer declaration and authorization form is required, which is confirmed by the checklist. One thing that I noticed is all of these checklists have been very recently updated. So this was 27th May, rural renewal was March 25th, AOS is also 27th of May. So this clarification is brought in very recently. Okay, so for express entry and tourism, I think, no, not tourism, rural renewal, it was updated on March. So that is what even I knew, that for rural renewal and express entry, you would need this employer declaration form. But it is required for other streams also, like tourism and AOS. This is a rather new development. So 27th of May is actually like what, 10-15 days back. So this checklist is updated like 10-15 days back. So here it is very clarified. They have now clarified it very clearly that for all the streams of AIP, the employer declaration form is mandatory. Okay, so that is what I wanted to clarify and wanted to put across in this particular video. And what I'll do one more video on filling up this particular form. I'll just go, I already have a video on the employer declaration authorization form. I will quickly check if anything changed on that form, and if nothing has changed, you can still refer to my earlier video on how and what to fill on the employer declaration and authorization form. Okay, what I'll do, I'll put that video as a, I'll just add that video to the end of this video so that you can still go through that video, and in the meantime I will check if there is any kind of update. Okay, so check the other video and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Hello everyone, and thank you for joining in again for yet another video. In this video, what I'm going to cover is a new change that was introduced very recently about the employer declaration and authorization. So there is a new form that was introduced very recently, and many people have questions on how and what to fill up in that particular form. So in this video, I would be taking you through that details, and we will just fill up that form together, and we will see what information are requested here. So just to give you a background on this particular change, so if you go to the AAIP landing page now, and just where there are details of all the program streams, there is now a link available for Alberta job offer and employer requirements. So if you click here, you will see that right now Alberta has kind of introduced or declared some requirements that are applicable for employers, and then there are certain requirements that are applicable to you or as a candidate to work with your employer and to get certain details. I have covered this particular page in my video, and I will link it here, but in addition to this, what has happened is that as part of the documentation process for the Alberta Express entry stream, there has been a new form that has been introduced. So I'll just quickly take you through that particular requirement and the changes that are there. So if you now go on to the Alberta Express entry stream, if you click here, and you go to the section, you click on how to apply, there is a section for the document checklist here. So if you look at that particular document checklist, you will see that there is a new section on the employer requirement. So there is a form that has been introduced. I will quickly take you through that form also, but let this open. So if once this page opens, go to the bottom of the page, and then here you will see the document checklist and the link for the employer documentation declaration and authorization. So if you click on this page has this particular checklist has been very recently updated. So the look and feel is a bit different from the one that I covered a bit earlier. So consider this video as an addition to that particular video. So let it open. So while it's opening, let me just quickly take you through the section of the form. So if you click on this particular form, employer declaration and authorization form, it downloads a PDF file onto your machine. Yeah, so now it's open. So if you look into this checklist, there is now a full section on the employer requirements. So in addition to your job offer, you have to fill up one more form, which is related to your employer. Okay, so this form has to be filled up along with your documentation, and this is now a required documentation. So let's see what this forms is and what this form looks like. So this is the form that is out there. It is only a 2-page form. Okay, not a very big form and not a very complicated form in my opinion. So what happens here? So the first section is obviously related to your name. So just make up some, like I'm just kind of making up some name, and so enter your name, date of birth, your company's name, company's operating name if it is anything that is different from your actual company name. So just enter your company name, the last name of your employer contacts. This is the hiring manager or the supervisor in the company, any person who is authorized to provide information on behalf of the company. Okay, so last name of the say there is I'm just picking up name. So the name of the person who is authorized, the title of the person, title in the sense that what position it holds in the company, his email ID, and his phone number. Okay. put in the address of the head office. Okay, so put in the address, put in the city, province, put in your postal code, your website. So obviously I'm making up this form. So the purpose is to just make you through all the fields, what all the fields can say. Next is the job offer or the employment information. So this employer would have offered you a job, and then this particular section will match or should match with your job offer. So the position that you are offered, your work location, say your work location is a different city, a different in the same province. Okay, and the business information. Now this particular section that is introduced here, there is a hint to this in the requirements, in the requirement of the program. So let me just quickly jump to the section on the section on the employer requirements. Okay, I'll just quickly jump to that section and I'll show you. I wanted to show you something. Okay, so if you see here, there are certain employer requirements here in the program. So things like the place of incorporation, the number of years it has been in operation, the place of doing business in Alberta, and then there is a requirement for the revenue and the number of employees it has, number of people it employs. Okay, so there are multiple requirements, multiple specific requirements related to the employer, and the form that you see, let me just quickly go back to the form, also deals with, also it's kind of a declaration to the same. Okay, so if you look here, number of business locations operating in Alberta. So say for example, your company has 2 offices in Alberta. Number of full-time employees in Alberta. This is for the full province. Okay, say your company already has 5 numbers of people full-time working. They have say 4 part-time employees. Next section is number of full-time employees at the work location. So the work location is your work location, the offer letters location. So put the number of employees at that particular work location and the number of part-time employees at that work location. The year the business is incorporated or registered, as I showed you on the earlier screen, your company must be registered in Alberta. Let me just quickly take you through that section again. So if you see here, your employer must be incorporated or registered either in either by a federal or a provincial legislation. So go back to the form and enter the year it is incorporated. So this is 2024. Say for example, your business was registered in say 2000. Okay. One more important thing here is that the company has to be in operation for at least 2 years in Alberta. So if you go back to the form, let me switch back. Sorry guys, I have to switch back and forth just to show you and make certain things clear. So that company must be in operation in Alberta for 2 complete fiscal years for which it has done tax submissions. So it has to be incorporated. So make sure the date that you enter in the declaration form is correct. That is something that the Aaip guys will check. Year the business is incorporated and year the business is established in Alberta. Okay, now the requirement for 2 years, 2 complete fiscal years is for Alberta. So this date is important in which the company is incorporated. So say for example, this company was incorporated in Ontario and then it opened a branch or something in Alberta. If that is the case, then these 2 years can be different, right? Like but our office is say it was incorporated in 2000, and let's take that example. In 2010, it established an office in Alberta. Okay. So I hope these 2 dates are very clear. Next, Number of AIP nominees requested for the work location. Again, this is for the work location part. Okay. So in this work location part, you will have to see, one second. Yeah. So in this work location, you will have to make sure that how many AIP nominees, or get that information from the employer. This excludes you, obviously, because you are just submitting your application. But this includes any of the AIP nomination that has already been processed or they are waiting to be assessed. Okay. So say 4 people have already done their nominations from this location. Okay. It's possible 4 people have already done this nomination. Get all the information from your employer. Description of company's primary line of business. This is, I'm just making up some line of business, and then the NAICS code. NAICS code, all the companies registered in Alberta, in North America have a NAICS code. I have a separate video on the NAICS code. You can get this information from your company's HR or just Google it. There are a lot of online repository which maintains this information. I'm again making up a NAICS number. So this is the first page and the only page in which you have to fill up something. So pretty clear, pretty straightforward, but yes, you will not have most of the information. All this information needs to be gathered from the employer. Like for example, you may have the information of your position and your work location from the offer letter, but obviously these information will not be part of your offer letter. So you have to work with your employer. And if you go back, let me again switch back to the detailed requirements section. So if you see here, you will have to work with your employer. So AIP is also expecting that you should work with your employer and get the information, right? So work with your employer and they should have this information. If for all the genuine businesses, they should be able to give that information. Okay. After this, what happens? There is a section where it kinds of elaborates on certain documents that AIP might need. Now, at the time of submission of this form, you may want to submit additional documentations related to the employer. You have to submit this form. It has to be signed by the authorized person. So make sure the name of the person that you have mentioned here, right? The employer contact, he prints his name and signs it here, but he also understands that AIP may request additional documentations. Okay. So additional documentation in the sense that AIP might want to make sure that the job offer is genuine and the employer is legitimate and the requirement is legitimate. So just to avoid any kind of scam or any kind of fly-by-night people scamming you, this kind of requirements is very good in my opinion. Okay. And how AIP can establish this, the fact that the employer is genuine or the job offer is genuine, they can ask certain documents. Now, they have kind of given a 5 or 6 bullet points of documentations that might help in helping the people, the AIP people, to establish that the business is genuine. But this is only an example. Okay, it's very clear that this is not an exhaustive list, or this doesn't have to be provided. If there are other documents which the business can provide to make sure that they are legitimate, please use that. Okay. So how do you do that? So authorization to access Canada My Business account online, they may have to provide that proof or that submission that they have a genuine business and they have a My Business online account. Any kind of financial documents like income tax returns, any kind of business documents like invoices, contracts, agreements, any kind of lease agreement or rental agreements, or ownership title. If the place of business is owned by your company, then prove that they own or lease or rent that particular place. Any kind of proof relating to the recruitment effort. So I'll go back to the requirement once again and I'll show you something. So employer should be able to demonstrate that they have made reasonable efforts to fill the position by a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident. Okay. So this again makes sure that the position that the employer has created for you is genuine. So to prove that, they may have to provide some kind of documentation. Now, that kind of documentation could be anything like details of ads posted on the job portals or the interviews that you have taken, and anything which kind of establishes from an employer point of view that they made reasonable efforts to fill that position, and then they are offering you this position only because they were not able to fill it up. Okay, so that, and then any kind of business license or letter of exemptions or any kind of registration documents with the local authorities. Understand this. Again, I have to repeat this. This is not the full list. This is only an example of the list which Aaip may require. Okay. So you will have to submit some of the documentations, and on top of that documentation, Aaip might want to get more documentation from your employer. Okay. So if you work with your employer and if you can get some of these documentations along with your application package, take that and submit with your application package. It will help a lot in your processing. Okay. Then the last section is just an employer declaration that employer is certifying that the information is true, and that if there is any kind of misstatement in this particular document, they can be held liable. You or your employer can be held liable. Okay. And then at the end, this document needs to be signed and dated by the employer contact. So if you see, this is a pure employer document. You don't have to sign this document. This document has to be signed by the employer. But in most cases, employer may want you to fill up this document, provide them this document, and then they will verify and sign this document. Okay. So make sure you have done this. In my opinion, take a printout, fill up the form to the sections where you can, and then take a printout, get it signed and scan it and upload the PDF copy along with your application. Okay. So I hope that this particular a small demonstration of the employer declaration and authorization form is helpful to you. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me and I will try my best to answer your questions, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much.